Ji, Assalamualaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to chapter 8 of Stumps and Insights, the ultimate cricket discourse. Tonight, I'm absolutely honored to have a very special guest who is joining me from Canada. His name is Bashaar Syed. You might know him from his quite an I like to call it an interesting podcast. He's here from Backward Point Pod. He's one half of that amazing cricket podcast that I greatly admire. And as many of you might have heard, it's the number one cricket podcast in North America. So, welcome to the show, Bashar Bhai. How are you doing? Tell us about your journey and introduce yourself and tell us about your journey and your association with cricket, how your love and obsession began with cricket, and how you essentially became a cricketaholic, as I like to call all of my guests, and how Backward Point Pod started, and how is it going along, and just tell us everything that there is to tell about Backward Point Pod.
Yeah, firstly, thank you, Arham, for inviting me on your show. Really great to be here. Yeah, cricket se obsession मेरी शुरू हुई थी when I was basically a kid. We used to live back in California. So my earliest memory of cricket is watching the 2003 World Cup. So I saw Shoaib Akhtar run in and ball fast, and I was like, यार मुझे ये करना है. खैर कभी कर नहीं पाया इतनी तेज बॉलिंग लेकिन that was just my inspiration to start playing cricket and being a fast bowler. मेरे भाई की inspiration was शाहिद अफरीदी, so he wanted to be a leg spinner and batter. So eventually 2005 में we moved to Karachi, and our dad promised us to get admitted into the PIA Cricket Academy. हमारे घर के पीछे थी. So every Saturday
अच्छा.
mornings, me and my brother would like walk to the academy, और वहाँ से हमारी basically general cricket training शुरू हुई, like basics of how to, catch a ball, how to hold a bat, how to not bend your arm while bowling. तो वहाँ पे हम लोगों ने कुछ साल 1.5 साल spend किया, cricket की basics सीखी, and eventually, like everybody else, started playing cricket on the streets, गली में tape ball cricket. फिर अपने स्कूल से खेलता था मैं, फिर हार्ड बॉल क्रिकेट शुरू की इवेंचुअली, और फिर 2012 में like we moved to Canada, but like the cricket love and obsession was always there. शुरू से देखना, खेलना, follow करना, ball to ball, like we were cricket fanatics. So moving to Canada was a bit difficult because यहाँ पे like the weather it's cold for 6 months, and the cricket wasn't as popular as it is now. Like up to यहाँ पे अपनी league भी आ गई इनके पास. There's so many leagues to play in as a player. So eventually, yeah, the love of cricket always stayed. Despite moving to Canada, I started a cricket team in my high school. Uh, got all the players together to be खेलते थे, इनको train करता था मैं. I was a captain of the high school team, and we would like have inter high school matches यहाँ पे. So it was quite a fun place to be. But yeah, like to answer your question, cricket was always like my one of my top priorities. So always loved it a lot. Always loved playing it, watching it, and eventually I watched and played so much that I sort of became a self-proclaimed cricket guru and analyst अपने घर में. और 2019 में मेरा भाई बोलता है कि यार तुम्हारे जो टेक्स है ना वो बड़े हॉट होते हैं, and some of them are actually
Hmm.
quite good. So we should talk
अच्छा.
about what you're saying on video on a podcast. So that's when we started the podcast. It was under a different name back then. तो वो हम लोगों ने तकरीबन कोई 3-4 साल रन किया था. But because we were talking about so many different things on that podcast, it was about movies, it was about it was had like
Is
random
that a
guests on
vaguely
it.
familiar pod?
That's correct. Yeah. So वहाँ पे we
Yeah.
were talking about like music, movies, album reviews, cricket was a
Everything.
big part of that. Yeah. So we weren't able to like get the proper reach because the YouTube algorithm was kind of confused कि यार तुम्हारा content हम लोग किसको भेजें, right? Should we send it to the music people, the cricket people? So we weren't getting the proper traction that we thought we were supposed to get. So that's when I decided that yeah, we should probably branch out Backward Point into its own channel. So December of last year, we made Backward Point into its own entity, and that's when we started doing just a podcast between me and my brother. So we did about 20 podcasts, and that's when basically July happened, or I realized the global T20 league in Canada is happening. And I felt that was a good opportunity for us to talk to some players, interview some players, got in touch with the league, asked them to become a media partner with us. And so that really helped us get access to the players. But वहाँ से we got the the Muhammad Haris podcast that went viral, the Azam Khan podcast, Shane Barnes podcast kar tha Fabian Allen was a guest, Samin Rana, the CEO of Lahore Kalandar. So that's where we got sort of those 4 or 5 really good, interesting guests, which really helped put backward point on the cricketing map because the Muhammad Haris podcast, as you already know, that went viral overnight, and that wasn't our intention.
Yeah.
It just happened, and we weren't prepared for it. But yeah, that's basically the whole story of my cricketing journey and backward point.
Yeah, you have mentioned an interesting point because I saw that blooper where you were interviewing with Muhammad Haris, and I think Shane Bond walks from behind and sort of distracts you. I'm not sure if I'm right, right? Who there was blooper. I do remember that.
Basically, what happened is we were interviewing Shane Bond and Tim Southey.
Yeah,
He was थोड़े शरारतें कर रहा था वो पीछे से so basically um, he was playing some obnoxious music and sounds during the podcast, and he was doing it to bother Shane Bond because they're friends, and he was trying to basically
yeah,
just have fun. So that was, it was a blooper moment where it was kind of weird. Like it felt like a surreal moment. Like I'm here interviewing Shane Bond and Tim Southey. By the way, my bowling action is sort of modeled over Tim Southey, which is Tim Southey with a favorite bowler. I'm also a right
yeah.
arm outswing new ball bowler.
काफी
So people,
smooth
whenever they see
actually.
my bowling out, बहुत स्मूथ है उसका. तो
Yeah,
मुझे भी जब लोग मेरी बॉलिंग देखते हैं ना, they're like, यार, your action is a lot similar to either
mm,
Jimmy Anderson or Tim Southey. So for Tim Southey
yeah.
to be interrupting my podcast was like it was a crazy moment.
Yeah, that is a dream itself, man. मतलब मैं अभी देख रहा हूँ ना तो I've sort of gotten थोड़ा सा emotional maybe कि यार मतलब imagine being you are interviewing a cricket star ठीक है मतलब Shane Warne man मतलब the name itself काफी है और suddenly Tim Southey another Kiwi fast bowling great is interrupting मतलब like imagine the fun you are having and imagine matlab, it's the stuff that matlab, for a cricketaholic like me dream matlab, those are what dreams are made of basically but I think काफी interesting चीज है because जिस तरीके से मतलब this is a basically token of you could say appreciation because you guys literally sort of brought a new sort of cricketing content that was missing from the cricketing fraternity or the cricketing media काफी static थी चीजें और even though मतलब काफी ज्यादा organizations exist करती हैं but जो real content है I think that is quite fabulous और मैं तो मतलब काफी देर से follow कर रहा हूँ so I'm a huge
और एक
admirer
और
of
चीज
that
ये भी है कि
uh,
there's many podcasts in Pakistan, and they oftentimes they host cricketers. But the thing with them is that they're just fans. We are cricket nerds. So जो
yeah
सवालात मैं पूछ सकता हूँ शेन बॉर्न से, मोहम्मद हारिस से, आजम खान से, वो कोई cricket fan नहीं पूछ सकता. He'll probably just ask it from a fan perspective. But my questions, I feel like, and this is not just to blow my own horn, but I feel like my questions were like I was well researched. I asked him like very intimate questions. जो एक वो
yeah
बंदा पूछता है जो क्रिकेट को समझता है और जो खेलता है और जो देखता है. So cricket fans may
exactly.
not have that same level of insights, and that's just what we wanted to bring to the whole cricketing fraternity. And hopefully, inshallah, if we get more cricket players on the podcast, we'll keep producing the same level of content.
आई थिंक वो काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है बिकॉज पाकिस्तान में काफ़ी ज़्यादा पॉडकास्ट एग्जिस्ट करते हैं एंड अब मैं जाहिर है सिंस दिस इज गोइंग टू गो ऑन रिकॉर्ड आई वोंट नेम दोज फ्यू पॉडकास्ट लेकिन बाज दफ़ा मतलब कुछ उनके कंटेंट काफ़ी वायरल हुआ है आई थिंक कोई 2-3 मिलियन व्यूज भी हैं उनके और मैं बाज दफ़ा देख रहा होता हूँ वो बंदा मतलब आप इमेजिन नहीं कर सकते वो क्रिएटर्स को बताता है ठीक है वो वायरल है जो भी है अब मतलब आई डोंट नो जो भी उसकी टारगेट ऑडियंस है बट वो बताता है और वो जान के अजीब सवाल पूछता है मतलब कोई उनकी क्रिकेटिंग आपने ये किया तो फिर उसके साथ क्या हुआ और मतलब वो प्रॉपर जैसे कहते हैं ना मतलब इन स्लैंग वर्ड्स you would call that person a popo that is what he is doing for generating content and अजीब बात ये है कि he is getting the traction so I think in a broader perspective that goes to show कि मतलब हमारी एक मेजोरिटी अवाम का इंटेलेक्ट मे बी अ स्ट्रॉन्ग वर्ड बट मतलब यू कैन से कि वो किस चीज से खुश हो रहे हैं मतलब वो उस चीज से बहुत पता लगता है कि उनका मतलब इंटेलेक्ट ही कह लेंगे कि कहाँ पे है, मतलब आप किस चीज को देख के क्या वायरल क्या चीज हो रही है, मतलब you could see probably great content from a lot of other people, but that is not मतलब getting the attention that it deserves. मतलब I have worked at grassroots, और I often feel कि they're doing amazing content here, they're doing amazing work, but it doesn't get noticed उस तरीके से, it hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves yet. I hope they do, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली मुझे पता है कि कितनी मेहनत हो रही है, और मतलब उसके बाद भी काफी मेहनत अभी भी हो रही है. बट दैट बीइंग सेड, टेल मी अबाउट you are obviously one half of the backward point for. Talk to me about Nazar Bhai, and how the two of you have come together. You have basically already mentioned that how Backward Point Pod started, but are they, matlab, what's the relationship like? Like, do you two disagree on something, and how do you two come along in producing content for Backward Point Pod? Like, edit कौन करता है videos, or all of that? How do you divide work? Because it's a dream कि मतलब आप मतलब I'm obviously alone. मतलब I do have people that are working for slash with me, but essentially जो इस प्लेटफॉर्म को like ओन करना है या चलाना है या स्ट्रैटेजी डायरेक्शन देनी है, दैट इज मतलब आई हैव बेसिकली स्टार्टेड दिस ऑन माय ओन इन शॉर्ट. तो यू ऑब्वियसली हैव नज़ार भाई टू हेल्प यू आउट विद दैट, तो हाउ डज दैट वर्क?
Yeah, basically, if you watch the podcast, you'll know that Nazir Bhai is more of the emotional person in the podcast, and I'm more of the grounded person. I'm more realistic. Though, like for example, like just the past few weeks, Nazir Bhai was like, "Yeah, Pakistan is gonna qualify for semis. ये कुदरत का निज़ाम चीज़ चल रही है और हो जाएगा." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think we deserve to be the semis." And secondly, um, लग नहीं रहा मुझे कि जो भी सारे factors हैं, they'll go in Pakistan's favor to qualify. But for a very long time, I would say 85% of things were going in Pakistan's favor. तो लग रहा था कि शायद qualify कर जाए. But I was still very grounded and realistic, and also trying to bring some light into his life. Kya, don't get too excited. But that's just the dynamic of our relationship as brothers. He's my older brother. So basically, how it works of like producing one episode, I am the producer of the podcast. So by what I mean is like I draft the episodes from scratch. Basically, I have a Word document where I'm just taking notes. I don't want to just come on the podcast and start blabbering. The conversation needs to have some sort of a template or a guiding principle of what you want to talk about. Those I have stats, I have things I want to talk about, things I want to cover, and then I just let the conversation sort of free flow. I share the notes with him before the podcast. He reads over it, and then he has things he wants to talk about or things he wants to add based on those points. So that's sort of what works. But oftentimes he will also have some ideas of podcasts, and he'll produce those episodes. For example, we did one episode of just Pakistan cricket team through the World Cups, the ODI World Cup. So that was like an almost 2 hour long podcast. So he produced the whole thing. He got me the notes. He got me all the stats. So, but mostly it's me producing the episode. So that's just sort of the dynamic of our relationship. But he's also, I would say he's more of the creative person. Like if I have any new ideas, I want to bounce off of him. He is always very supportive. He adds value to my ideas. He, adds his tidbits to enhance those ideas. That's basically how we work, and it's good to be working with him. He's my brother, so we have disagreements, and I think that's good for the podcast because people love the banter between us. That just adds a different flavor to the podcast.
Yeah, I think that obviously, you're talking about the monotone eradication that I need on this particular broadcast. So I think you guys have it with you, मतलब you, or you guys already have it. मतलब वो naturally क्योंकि आप लोग मतलब obviously discourse होता है तो automatically वो चीज़. I was basically invited by a few. I think there were three people. Their podcast name is Short Yar. I think they recently started. All three of them were from Canada as well. So I
That's true.
particularly really enjoyed that episode because for a change I was a guest, ठीक है, and मतलब तीन लोग थे और उसमें कुछ funny चीजें भी होंगी because of the internet disconnectivity and bloopers and all. तो I really enjoyed that क्योंकि उसमें काफी ज्यादा ना मतलब conflicting of opinions and maybe four people disagreeing or three people ganging up on one because उसकी opinion ऐसी है इमाम ये वो. खैर, I think we have talked about your, I think I would say, a very nice journey to of starting off Backward Point podcast. let's without further ado, let's delve into the current World Cup that is happening in India right now. और काफी जिसे कहते हैं, I would say as Pakistani fans, both of us and like or the rest of the fandom are obviously disappointed. Sorry, are obviously disappointed and हर दफा यही होता है कि obviously we go through a roller coaster ride. मतलब that is what Pakistan cricket is, right? So firstly, talk about did you expect these four teams to qualify for the semi-finals? What was how has this World Cup essentially panned out according to your expectations? Initially, we saw कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का इश्यूज थे एंड इंडिया की जिस तरह की 2011 की हाइप थी, आई थिंक इट डिडंट एग्जैक्टली लिव अप टू दैट क्योंकि एंथम लोगों को आई थिंक इट वाजंट लाइक बाय मेनी और फिर शुरू में हाफ ऑफ द टूर्नामेंट वाज क्वाइट वन साइडेड मतलब वी weren't getting the thrillers but उसके बाद शुरू हो गए we got a lot of thrillers as well. So how do you see the entire World Cup so far? कि किस तरीके से हुआ है? It was quite competitive as well, in my opinion. पहली दफा I think ऐसे हुआ है कि all the teams in a particular World Cup have won at least two matches. ठीक है? So just talk about the World Cup in general and talk about the top performers. I think De Kock, David Warner, Virat Kohli, and all of that. Honorable mention to Reece Topley, who I just saw that he has the highest strike rate in this World Cup. Well, I think he is striking at 177.7. Although he has played only two innings, but man, Reece Topley, who would have thought that he would have the highest strike rate in Cricket World Cup? Hey,
That's crazy.
please go ahead and discuss.
Yeah, starting off with how I expected the World Cup to pan out. Basically, there's a very viral clip of Nazar Bhai and me talking about our World Cup predictions, and it's going viral again because of how wrong we were. So basically, my top four teams that I predicted before the World Cup were India, Australia, England, and I said it'll be one of the teams between New Zealand and Pakistan. And I said because I'm a Pakistani, I will say Pakistan will go first. But so basically, I got two of the teams wrong. And then I also mentioned it's going to be in India versus England final with England to win. So England, in my opinion, has been the biggest flop of this World Cup. I don't think anybody anticipated England will flop this hard. Like to, I think they've only won three matches, and to not even be competitive, shocker for me. I think convinced by Owen Morgan to continue backing this England team to do a repeat of the last World Cup because they had a lot of the same players. I felt like they had all of the ingredients to come back and win the World Cup again, but I guess I was wrong. And then New Zealand, I feel like you can never really write them off. So, but me being a Pakistani, I gave Pakistan that slim chance of qualifying in the top four. And I really expected this Pakistani team to qualify. Now, looking back, if had they won against Afghanistan, had they beaten South Africa, had that review gone in Pakistan's favor, they would have won six games and they would have been in the top four. But I guess hindsight is 2020. So looking back, this could have happened, that could have happened. But yeah,
Yeah,
just disappointed with respect to Pakistan's performances and how the top four have sort of. It's interesting. I feel like South Africa, nobody really rated them before the World Cup, but they've come out as a dark horse and they've beaten some really good teams and they've played very dominating cricket. So good to see the South African team back in the top four, but I'm looking forward to see how they do because they're chokers of the knockouts and so is India. So we'll see how that pans out. From a Pakistan point of view, I think Babar Azam's performances were very disappointing. They were not up to Babar Azam's standards, the standards that he has set for himself. I understand he scored 450s in 9 matches, average of 40, but his strike rate, I believe, is one of the lowest in the top 25 highest run scorers. And Babar Azam, who walked into this World Cup as a number one ODI batsman, I feel like by yesterday he was the 21st ranked highest scorer of the World Cup, but one of the lowest ranked strike rates in that list. So Babar just hasn't been at his best, and for a batsman of Babar's class and caliber, you expect him to at least win two of the 9 matches for Pakistan, but Babar has won us none of them. So lots of question marks there, and also in Babar's captaincy itself. Babar's performances in bilaterals are amazing. But in the past few multi-nation tournaments, he's been a total flop, total no-show. So it's a huge point of concern. I don't know if it's the pressure of captaincy on him, because I mean, the stats in bilaterals are different, but maybe when he goes into multi-nation tournaments, that's when the pressure comes up to him. What's more disappointing for me actually is the way that Bob Razum has been getting out, like soft dismissals, catch at mid wicket. I think two of the matches, trying to play adapt to third man against India, getting bowled. Just the last match yesterday against England, like short ball, which he should have put for away for a boundary, gets caught at mid wicket. The game against Sri Lanka, he got like tickled down the leg side for a caught behind. So I wouldn't say Babar got like any peach deliveries. Like the game against India in Asia Cup, Hardik Pandya balled him a real ripper. But aside from that, he hasn't been really getting good ball. It's more like him throwing his wicket away. So it's a huge point of concern for Pakistan. And I think Babar Azam, just from a perspective of how this was managed, this whole tournament, the Pakistan team wanted to go to Dubai for a few days before the World Cup to do some bonding sessions. But because the team did not have their visas from the Indian consulate, that trip of Dubai was sort of cancelled. They weren't able to do that boarding session. I'm not saying had they have done that, it would have been a different tournament. But what I am saying is, like, these bonding sessions are very important because teams that are gelled together, that play as one unit, often perform better. So yeah, I would definitely agree that this wasn't the best managed tournament out there. Maybe could have been better. What did you think of Pakistan's performances?
Yeah, I personally feel that you have pointed out a very interesting thing कि जो off the field चीजें होती हैं ना, they often don't come on the paper and but they are extremely important. ठीक है. अब जो we saw the administrative issues जो PCB के मतलब कहाँ की दुनिया में ऐसे होता है कि your chairman is basically leaking your charts in the middle of a World Cup. Now that is bound to affect you mentally, right? This is something that won't come on paper. This won't, मतलब you won't like officially see it. मतलब hidden curriculum का जो concept होता है कि this is going to affect you in a covert sort of a manner, right? And उसका मतलब जो आम कॉमन बंदा है जो खास तौर पे पाकिस्तानी जो पब्लिक है वो तो यही कहेगी कि हमें तो आप प्रोफेशनल्स हैं एंड वी वांट यू टू परफॉर्म वी डोंट केयर व्हाट इज हैपनिंग अब ये बॉन्डिंग सेशन वाला एक मसला था उसके बाद आई हर्ड शोएब मलिक यस्टरडे के ट्रैवलिंग जो है एक एक्सक्यूज है एंड प्रोफेशनल्स को पता होना चाहिए एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट बट ये भी देखना चाहिए कि एशिया कप वाज आवर ओन टूर्नामेंट राइट and the most hassled team in that tournament was ours because we had to go back and forth and we had to do a lot of traveling और मतलब उसके बाद बीच में एलपीएल भी हो रहा है और मतलब मुझे समझ नहीं आ रही कि ठीक है पाकिस्तान की परफॉर्मेंस wasn't up to the mark. I agree. I also agree कि बाबर आजम wasn't up to the mark as well. But काफी ज्यादा क्रिटिसिज्म मतलब बाबर की जो 450 हुई हैं बाबर दी बैट्समैन पे लोग उतना क्रिटिसाइज नहीं कर रहे ऑल्दो उसमें भी उसकी मतलब ही लैग ठीक है ऑब्वियसली मतलब नंबर वन बैटर है यू एक्सपेक्ट हिम टू स्कोर एटलीस्ट अ कपल ऑफ सेंचुरीज मतलब इतना या एटलीस्ट वन ओडीआई सेंचुरी ठीक है बट वो नहीं हुई ठीक है दैट इज अ सेपरेट वे मसला इस वक्त बशार भाई यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि पीपल आर गेटिंग people are crossing the line while criticizing and basically they are exaggerating their criticism on Babar Azam. That is what I personally feel. ठीक है अब let's take a breather ठीक है अब बाबर का एक बेसिकली 40 आपको आपने शायद मैच देखा हो जो अफगानिस्तान से हमारे ठीक है people criticize the hell out of him when he gave Osama Mir that 46th over and usme he went for 13. Now I was basically having my dinner at that time and I was just watching the match and कि I knew कि बाबर ने किस rationale से वो over उसको दिया है 46th over and I at the same time I knew that people will go on all guns blazing and that is what happened what they fail to think is कि मतलब people were saying कि 5 ओवर फास्ट बॉलर्स के पड़े हुए थे उनको क्यों नहीं दिया बट लोग ये नहीं देख रहे कि अफगानिस्तान was cruising literally they were it was a smooth sail for them ठीक है they were 2 down and their batters were settled दैट उसामा मीर ओवर जो दिया 46th ओवर, उसमें से उससे पहले 42nd ओवर भी दिया था, एंड उसामा मीर वेंट फॉर ओनली 3। 46th ओवर उसको इसलिए दिया, इवन दो ही वेंट फॉर 11 रन्स इन दैट ओवर। इट वाज अ गैम्बल, बट मैं मुझे जो समझ आई वो ये था कि आई थिंक इट वाज अ लेफ्टी एंड राइटी बैट्समैन एट दैट टाइम, ठीक है। तो उसामा मीर की सबसे ज्यादा प्रोबेबिलिटी उसामा मीर की थी उस टाइम में विकेट लेने के लिए, बिकॉज इफ दे वेंट फॉर अ बिग हिट, इफ दे वेंट फॉर अ स्लॉग स्वीप, मतलब उस वक्त मिस क्यों की ज्यादा प्रोबेबिलिटी थी, दे वर प्लेइंग द फास्ट बॉलर्स एज इफ मतलब दे प्ले देम डेली, ठीक है, दे weren't हैविंग एनी प्रॉब्लम्स अगेंस्ट द फास्ट बॉलर्स। तो वो डिसीजन भी ठीक था। उसके बाद आई थिंक वो क्योंकि एक नोशन चलता आ रहा है, तो पीपल आर स्टार्टिंग टू, मतलब उन्होंने एक सेट हो गई है कि बाबर इज नॉट अ गुड कैप्टन। बट व्हाट आई पर्सनली फील इज कि पीपल शुड know that Babar Azam is also a human, ठीक है, और at the end of the day some decisions are subjective, and at the end of the day he has to take a particular decision. उसके अगले ओवर में, उसके अगले मैच में पता है क्या हुआ? he did bowl out uh, he did bowl out the fast bowlers, ठीक है, जो कह रहे थे सारे कि bowl out कर दो, go for the kill, वो वाला कॉन्सेप्ट आपको पता होगा कि don't save your strike bowlers for the later end of the part। तो वही लोग, मतलब एग्जैक्टली सारे वही लोग तो नहीं, बट उनमें से आधे लोग, मतलब मुझे पर्सनली एक बंदा मिला कि उसका ओवर संभाल लेना था। अब पिछले मैच में जो इंग्लैंड वाला मैच हुआ, शदाब वाज बॉलिंग द 40th और 41st ओवर, एंड ही देयर वाज अ पर्सन ऑन ट्विटर, ही वाज लाइक कि यार why isn't he going for the kill? मैं I was like bro, मतलब शदाब के ओवर्स कंप्लीट कराने हैं, इफ्तिखार एंड सलमान हैव बॉल्ड 7 and 3, ठीक है, तो शदाब के ओवर्स अगर कंप्लीट कराने हैं तो विल ही गिव हिम द 48th and 50th ओवर? मतलब टॉक सम सेंस यार, ही इज देयर फॉर अ रीजन,
So
ठीक है।
let me
एंड
let me talk to you about one thing.
या
You said Babar Azam is human. Humans have to evolve over time. They have evolved over time, but Babar is sort of making the same mistakes in every single tournament. Starting off from, like, I want to talk about giving Mohammad Nawaz the last over against South Africa. बेसिकली मोहम्मद नवाज आपको पिछले 3 मैचेस हरवा चुका है 2022 के एशिया कप से। अगर आप शुरू करें द गेम अगेंस्ट इंडिया where Hardik Pandya smashed him, and then the game at the MCG against India where Virat Kohli smashed him. तो 2 मैच आप हार चुके हो by giving Nawaz the death overs. Why did you give Nawaz the death over against South Africa? Why didn't you not try Osama Mir then?
या
सेम गलती
अब
बार
नाउ
बार
आई
कर रहा है
हैव,
ना वो।
नहीं नहीं वो देखें, अब आई वाज लुकिंग एट एवरीथिंग जब वो लास्ट ओवर शुरू हो रहा था, ठीक है, एंड पीपल वर कमिंग इन हडल्स एज वेल। अब ऑब्वियसली एवरीबॉडी इज गोइंग टू से दैट बाबर हैज द फाइनल कॉल, बट अगर आप देखें कि उसामा मीर को अगर उस मैच में भी ज्यादा मार पड़ी है, एंड नवाज इज समवन जो कि, मतलब आई नो कि उसने 2 मैचेस हरवाए हुए हैं, बट अगर मतलब यू हैव आल्सो प्लेड क्रिकेट, आई हैव आल्सो प्लेड क्लब क्रिकेट, ठीक है, essentially you would expect, or matlab, I saw Iftikhar signaling like this for as well. Ki Iftikhar came in, Rizwan came in that huddle, and I literally, matlab, obviously I can't be 100% sure, but I literally saw everyone voting and agreeing on the same thing that Nawaz should go for that, and I personally agree on that, because this is the exact thing that Babar Azam is doing, जो लोग उसे कहते हैं, एंड व्हेन ही डजंट डू दैट पीपल स्टिल क्रिटिसाइज हिम। ही वेंट फॉर द किल, ठीक है, उस पहले में तभी उसको नवाज या उसामा मीर को वो लास्ट ओवर देना पड़ा। ही वेंट फॉर द किल, ही गेव शाहीन, एंड ही completed Shaheen's over and Rauf's over, and I don't know if Wasim was playing or Hassan was playing that match, and he went for the kill। अब exactly वही चीज हुई जो बाबर आजम जब when he doesn't go for the kill and when he saves over for the end, ठीक है। What I'm trying to convey right now is कि at the end of the day, a person can take only one decision at a particular time, right? He has to take a gamble. Hindsight is such a beautifully, it's such a beautiful, and at the same time, it's such a torturous thing for for a Pakistani captain, because people tend to criticize you, and they will go all guns blazing on you if that decision doesn't come right. I'll give an example. If that Joginder Sharma over didn't come off right, do you think that MS Dhoni would have gotten the legacy, considering how the subcontinent people react the same way when a rash decision is taken? He is now, matlab, Dhoni is obviously praised for his captaincy and his master skill and all of that. यही चीज अगर नवाज ने कर ली होती तो बाबर आजम के भी प्रेज होते। तो आई थिंक बहुत छोटी छोटी चीजें होती हैं जिसमें, मतलब आई थिंक पीपल, मतलब
मतलब
Everybody
तुम
is
बेसिकली
entitled
बोल
to
रहे हो कि
their
यार
opinion.
the players need to back Babar's decision as well. Like it's not all up to him.
नहीं, they do back. जो नवाज वाला डिसीजन था
यार
उन्होंने बैक
नवाज
किया.
ने
आई
कहाँ
डोंट नो.
बैक किया यार, वो आपको 2-3 मैच, जब से बाबर आजम ने बोला ना कि नवाज तू मेरे मैच विनर है, तब से नवाज उसको 2 मैच हरा चुका है, एक मैच जिताया
सही
भी नहीं
बात
उसको
है.
यार। मतलब आई डोंट नो क्या दिखता है उसको नवाज में, ओके उसकी लाइक नंबर्स डोंट लाई राइट, उसके
हाँ.
स्टैट्स डोंट बैक अप व्हाट बाबर
हाँ.
आजम
हाँ.
सीज इन हिम। आई वांट टू टॉक टू बाबर एंड आस्क हिम यार तुम्हें दिखता क्या है नवाज के अंदर जो मुझे नहीं दिख रहा, जो किसी और को नहीं दिख रहा।
सही बात है. नहीं नहीं, आई डोंट डिफेंड नवाज, बल्कि नवाज की अगर बात होती है तो आई थिंक दिस इज अ गुड पॉइंट टाइम टू टॉक अबाउट स्पिनर्स एज वेल. आई थिंक एसेंशियली आई डोंट बिलीव इतनी ज्यादा ब्लेम गेम में, क्योंकि टीम गेम होती है. बट आई थिंक इट वाज रियली एम्बैरेसिंग for a country of Pakistan's heritage, Pakistan's cricketing heritage, your spinners were underperforming so badly that New Zealand wale match mein we ended up going with 4 pacers and 2 part timers. मतलब
यार
इंडिया
अरहम,
में अगर
आई एम नॉट
टूर्नामेंट है,
श्योर कि
यू
तुम क्रिकेट कब
वांट
से
योर
देख रहे हो,
स्पिनर्स टू परफॉर्म वेल. सॉरी.
आई एम नॉट श्योर कि तुम क्रिकेट कब से देख रहे हो, मगर दिस इन माय ओपिनियन वाज पाकिस्तान's worst ever spin bowling attack at any world cup. Like
या
compare
आई हैव
this
बीन.
attack to 2011 का जो वर्ल्ड कप था, उसमें we had अजमल, अफरीदी, हफीज and they were all
हफीज.
bowling
या.
their best.
And that is why we went
और
into the semi-finals as well. We weren't that good of a batting
absolutely
side, if you remember. We didn't score. मेरा पहला वर्ल्ड कप was 2011 वर्ल्ड कप, right? And मैं तरास गया था कि पाकिस्तान के किसी बैट्समैन ने सेंचुरी क्यों नहीं की यार. मतलब मेरा imagine
hmm.
we watching your first World Cup and not watching a single century from a Pakistani batter. But as they say, bowlers win you tournaments, right? तो आई थिंक इट वाज बॉलिंग जो हमें कैरी करी थी और वही हमें सेमीफाइनल में लेके गई. एंड वही यहीं से शो हो रहा है कि इवन दो वी हैड अ स्ट्रॉन्ग बैटिंग लाइनअप, आई थिंक स्पिनर्स ने इतना हेवी लेट डाउन किया है कि मतलब आई हैड नो वर्ड्स. मतलब वो परफॉर्म ही कर रहे हैं, मतलब लोग ही चुप हो गए. एंड एवरीबडी इवन नोज कि दिस वाज द बेस्ट दैट पाकिस्तान हैज. ठीक है, अबरार और उसामा मीर का टसल था और वो तब डिसीजन लिया गया था. एंड आई थिंक फिर उसामा को ही खिलाना चाहिए था, बिकॉज व्हेन शाहिद अफरीदी बिकेम द सिलेक्टर इन जनवरी 2023, ये डिसीजन तब लिया गया था. और सलमान अली आगा का भी डिसीजन तब लिया गया था. वो अलग बात है कि सऊद ने उसको ओवर पावर कर दिया विद सम अमेजिंग परफॉर्मेंसेज, ऑल्दो उसकी भी उतनी अच्छी नहीं रही पहले मैच के बाद, नीदरलैंड्स के बाद. बट आई थिंक उसामा के साथ स्टिक करना फिर आई थिंक इट मेड सेंस, क्योंकि अबरार को
यार
अगर आप
उसामा
एकदम से ले आते.
आपके लिस्ट एक जो टूर्नामेंट था लास्ट ईयर, ही वाज योर टॉप विकेट टेकर. So Osama
या.
was sort of the best available option. Abrar Ahmed को मैं I talked about it in the podcast as well कि अबरार अहमद is a mystery bowler, लेकिन उसकी bowling में भी एक mystery है कि क्या वो वाइड बॉल खेल सकता नहीं कर सकता. Islamabad
या.
United played him in like a couple of matches last PSL, and he performed okay. But there's no records to back के यार Abrar Ahmed is going to be a great wide ball bowler. Like Test में, I know he has done it, but Test में you have more time to set the batsman up, to ball long spells. ODIs में, like remember that bowler from India, Varun Chakravarti? He was also like a mystery finger spinner, but Babar
या.
and Rizwan just smashed him. So there's no guarantee कि Abrar अगर खेलता तो कैसा खेलता. I think Shadab Khan, one of his press conferences, he mentioned कि यार टीम में जो खेल रहा होता है वो खराब दिखता है, जो टीम में नहीं होता वो अच्छा दिखता है. And then it's the vice versa. जब वो टीम
वही.
में आता है तो बोलते हैं यार नहीं वो अच्छा है वो खराब है.
या.
तो it's just that's just what happens. But I mean, but there's no excuse for Pakistan spinners to be this bad. Um, the other thing is that Pakistan has faced the same issues in this World Cup, which they did while going into the World Cup. Like we always knew कि यार हमारे spin department weak है, फखर form में नहीं है. वो luckily he came back into form. हमारे ऊपर से batsmen they don't play with intent. Shaheen की pace गिरी हुई है. Haris Roof cannot ball in the first spell properly. Death overs में हमारे पास कोई bowler नहीं है. So all of those same issues, the glaring issues in front of us, they came back to bite us in the World Cup, and we're like, how did that happen? We know how it happened. It was in front of us. We just closed
आई
our eyes.
थिंक I think लोग अक्सर बोलते हैं कि बाबर आजम. Did you see that Ramiz Raja video that got viral around 24 hours back? उसमें he basically I think I posted it on one of my accounts as well. मतलब coming back to my, उसमें basically he is basically sort of defending बाबर. ठीक है, और with very valid points. अब लोग बोलते हैं कि हारिस रऊफ को क्यों कर रहा है वो पावर प्ले में. आप मुझे ये बताओ कि डू वी हैव एनीथिंग एनीवन एल्स टू बॉल? वसीम जूनियर इज एन इवन वर्स ऑप्शन टू बॉल इन पावर प्लेज, राइट? वी डोंट, आई थिंक नसीम शाह के जाने से किसी भी, अगर कोई स्ट्रांग टीम हो, ठीक है, नसीम शाह के जाने से किसी एक प्लेयर के जाने से इतना बुरा टीम को गिरना नहीं चाहिए। और मतलब इट इज अनलकी कि
यार
नसीम शाह
पता है,
गया, ठीक है।
the question here then, or the argument is, okay, our bowlers are just not good enough. If you look at the Indian team, Shami, Bumrah, Siraj, they can ball in the power play, in the middle overs, in the death overs. सिर्फ पाकिस्तान में है कि यार शाहीन न्यू बॉल का बॉलर है, हारिस रूफ डेथ ओवर्स का बॉलर है, वसीम जूनियर डेथ का बॉलर है. Like why can't these guys train themselves to be good enough to ball anywhere and everywhere? Like literally, we had to fly out Zaman Khan to Sri Lanka to play this match again in the Asia Cup. This World Cup,
Yeah,
we had to bring out Hassan Ali. Hassan Ali in the past podcasts mentioned that he knows he's not part of the World Cup squad, but suddenly you have to call him back just because you don't have a new ball bowler. And Hassan Ali in the Champions Trophy was a good bowler because he was a great bowler in the middle overs, not the new ball.
yeah.
So you're asking Hassan Ali to do something that he's sort of not fully comfortable with. So it's just it's chaos. It's very sad because Pakistan has had a rich history of spin bowling and express pace bowling, और अभी दोनों ही हमारे चल नहीं रहे.
आई थिंक एट द एंड ऑफ द डे लोग इंटेंट, आपने भी इंटेंट की बात की अभी। आई थिंक एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इट्स कमिंग डाउन, all the eyes are pointing towards the system, right? Saurav Ganguly came yesterday on the pavilion, और सिस्टम की बात हो रही थी बेसिकली कि उनका सिस्टम कितना स्ट्रांग है, किस तरह से लंबी क्रिकेट वो खेलते रहते हैं। अब आई फेल टू अंडरस्टैंड, जो मतलब आई पर्सनली बिलीव कि जो पाकिस्तान के ये जो पीसीबी के जो चेयरमैन चेंज होते रहते हैं ना, हर्षा भोगले वेरी करेक्टली pointed out, and it was sort of insulting as well, but he was correct. Yeah, we can't disagree with him. He said that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, it is Akash Ashraf. On Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, it is Najm Sethi, and on Sunday, Pakistan decides who will be running PCB the next week. I mean, it's so humiliating. And मतलब वो, चलो ठीक है यार, चेयरमैन अगर चेंज हो भी रहे हैं, ठीक है, बट आप आके अपनी लेगेसी इंस्टिल करने के लिए आप पिछले टेन्योर का सारा काम ही खराब कर देते हो। मतलब दे वर्क सो हार्ड, रमीज राजा, एहसान मानी, वसीम खान, जो ये दोनों टेन्योर्स थे, दे बेसिकली सेट अप अ सिस्टम। इट वाज अ वेरी गुड सिस्टम ऑफ सिक्स एसोसिएशन, ठीक है, मतलब पीपल डिसएग्री एंड एग्री कि कौन सा सिस्टम होना चाहिए, बट एक सिस्टम था, एटलीस्ट उसको आप 10 years या 15 years चलने तो दें, ताकि पता लगे कि इस सिस्टम से कोई फ्रूट्स बेयर हो रहे हैं, पिछले 10 साल से बेहतर रिजल्ट्स आ रहे हैं, नहीं आ रहे। एट द एंड ऑफ द डे उस सिस्टम को किसकी बैकिंग थी? रमीज राजा की बैकिंग थी। ही इज अ फॉर्मर क्रिकेटर। और रमीज राजा ने किससे उस सिस्टम को, आई थिंक रमीज राजा किसकी आइडियोलॉजी को आगे लेके चल रहा होगा? द ग्रेट इमरान खान। ऑब्वियसली बात है, ही इज नॉट इन द पिक्चर, बट he would have definitely been communicating with रमीज राजा। आई एम श्योर ऑफ दैट। बेशक वो इतनी रेगुलर ना करता हो, बट आई थिंक आइडियोलॉजी उसी ने सेट की थी। तो आई थिंक जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इश्यूज हैं पीसीबी के, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे मेरा एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है कि if we had reached the semis, I would have been fine. Okay, I wasn't expecting Pakistan to win. People tell me that don't settle for mediocrity, but I think given the system that we have, uh, we do deserve to settle for mediocrity, because we don't have a settled system. Let's be honest. Okay? If you're not giving the proper system for the players, how do you expect them to, win? Injury crisis is trying. Ihsanullah wasn't treated properly. Shaheen was going to, मतलब शाहीन की भी थोड़ी सी issues आ रहे थे, तो I think
He had
all
to
in
go to
all,
the UK to get himself treated खुद से.
yeah, और नसीम शाह मतलब काफी ज्यादा
Wasim Shah
volatile है पीसीबी
apparently
के बाद।
he was carrying the injury apparently, like he wasn't properly diagnosed, and just when he dived, वो injury उसकी exaggerated हो गई. Now he's out of the World Cup. So yeah, it's very
यार
poor, and it's
नसीम
also
शाह की मैंने एक और भी बात सुनी है, अब आई डोंट नो कितनी सच्चाई है इस बात में। मतलब आई सेलेक्ट यूज सेलेक्टिव वर्ड्स टू से ऑन एयर, बट आई थिंक हफीज सेड इट। मतलब मुझे बेसिकली, मतलब आई डोंट यूजुअली लिसन टू व्हाट द व्हाट्सएप चैट्स ऑफ आवर uncles and dads say, but मैंने ये 2-3 दफा बात सुनी, and I just nodded it off कि यार हाँ ठीक है मतलब लोग कुछ भी कह रहे थे. And then Mohammad Hafiz sat on TV and he didn't say the entire thing, but I knew what he was talking about, right? He mentioned that Naseem Shah was जैसे कहते हैं ना, he was ousted for other reasons. उसकी इंजरी
I've heard about
मतलब
that
उससे,
conspiracy. सुन चुका हूँ मैं इस बारे में.
yeah, and I
Basically,
think कि
because
और
he
मैंने
supported one of the political leaders on. I think he has a selfie with him, or he has a picture of them on their
I think
phone.
he did
ऐसी कुछ
support
thing.
Imran Khan publicly. He did make that tweet, ठीक है, and कोई एक वीडियो भी वायरल हुई थी where he didn't shake Shehbaz Sharif's hand as a kid. तो आई डोंट नो कितनी सच्चाई है इस बात में, मतलब कंस्पिरेसी थ्योरीज तो आती रहती हैं, बट अगर ये सच है इट्स ऑनेस्टली वेरी सैडनिंग, ठीक है. मतलब यू
I
कांट
doubt it.
डिसअलाउ. Yeah, I doubt it as well कि मतलब इतनी तो इंटरफेरेंस ही होगी. बट खैर, गेटिंग बैक टू द वर्ल्ड कप की परफॉर्मेंस की अगर हम बात करें, तो जो पाकिस्तान के स्पिनर्स थे बशार भाई, बेसिकली काफी फजूल परफॉर्मेंस रही है. नो डिसरिस्पेक्ट इंटेंडेड, आई एम जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट द ट्रुथ. और उसामा मीर आई थिंक गॉट four wickets, इफ्तिखार गॉट 4 wickets, Nawaz got 2 wickets in 5 matches, और Shadab Khan also got 2 wickets. तो आई थिंक ऑल इन ऑल अगर जो वीक लिंक देखा जाए तो स्पिनर्स का था.
मतलब आप ये
और
सोच रहे हैं कि इफ्तिखार अहमद हमारा बेस्ट बॉलर था स्पिनर में.
एग्जैक्टली आई वाज लुकिंग एट सम स्टैट्स, जिस तरह मतलब कुछ मैचेस में शादाब और इफ्तिखार ने सेम टाइम में बॉलिंग किया, एंड most of the time Iftikhar was either similar to the two of them or just better. तो काफी शर्मिंदगी की बात है. ऑल इन ऑल, व्हाट डू यू मतलब सी, मतलब व्हाट्स योर टेक ऑन द वे फॉरवर्ड फॉर द पाकिस्तान टीम बिशारवी? We are hearing a lot of debate on Pakistan's captaincy. We have talked about Babar Azam in detail. I personally didn't want Babar Azam to become captain at the time when he did. I actually have a post as well in 2021 when he became captain. I personally thought that uh, उसकी जो कैप्टनसी है, उसकी जो परफॉर्मेंस है वो शायद बर्डन हो जाए, क्योंकि आपको शायद याद हो बाबर आजम बिकेम कैप्टन ऑन द बैक ऑफ when on the back of just on the back of 3 matches that he vice captain, right? जब जब मैनेजमेंट ने डिसाइड कर लिया उसको कैप्टन बनाना है, दे मेड हिम वाइस कैप्टन फॉर 3 matches, एंड देन दैट वाज द श्रीलंका सीरीज दैट सरफराज लॉस्ट. एंड उसके बाद दे इमीडिएटली हैंडेड हिम ओवर फॉर्मेट 3 फॉर्मेट कैप्टनसी, एंड फिर वीडियो आ रही है और वो सारे कुछ. आई थिंक बाबर को प्रॉपरली उन्होंने ग्रूम नहीं किया कैप्टनसी के लिए, दैट इज व्हाट आई थिंक. बट नाउ वो दैट इज ऑल इन द पास्ट. अब बाबर आजम के लिए व्हाट डू यू थिंक के व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज द वे फॉरवर्ड, ठीक है? उसके बाद आई विल टेल के मतलब व्हाट इज द आइडियल वे फॉरवर्ड फॉर मी.
यार पहली बात तो ये है कि वी डोंट हैव एनी मोर ओडीआईस टिल द नेक्स्ट ईयर आई थिंक. तो जो भी वर्ल्ड कप में इस बार हुआ है, if Babar Azam resigns from ODI captaincy, if he's removed, we won't really see the consequences of that until next year. Once I guess the preparations for the Champions Trophy start to happen. But just I think the Pakistan cricket जो मसले हैं ना, they're more deeply rooted than the captaincy change and the team change. Like you mentioned, it's the PCB being inconsistent, it's the chairman being changed, it's the political interference in the PCB, it's the volatility in the whole domestic structure. अभी एक 3 साल एक सिस्टम चला है, उसको चेंज कर दिया. Now there's regions apparently. So I think that's where the focus needs to go. And हम लोग हर वर्ल्ड कप के बाद यही बात करते रहते हैं कि domestic ठीक करो, first class ठीक करो, but nothing really happens. So it's very sad. But I think just from a team's point of view, I think Babar Azam, if you do remove Babar from captaincy, like who takes over is my question, right? So and do you remove Babar from all formats? Do you remove him from just the one format, or just the white ball captaincy and let him continue with the red ball captaincy? So there's lots of questions. I'll probably throw it back to you. I have mixed opinions of what should really be happening. But I think for now, like Babar Azam has had a good run as a captain. Very disappointed he wasn't able to finish any of the tournaments. By like he has basically no trophies to show in his cabinet of
Yeah.
being of being a Pakistan captain, which I think is quite disappointing, and I expected better from Babar.
Yeah, I think मैं इस चीज को इस तरीके से कोरिलेट करता हूँ that बाबर आजम in order to extend his legacy, he is going to fall, inshallah, he is going to fall into the category where people talk about the Tendulkars, Saeed Anwars, and the Laras, who weren't great captains. ठीक है? Although I think this is sort of जैसे कहते हैं थोड़ी सी ज्यादती है क्योंकि बाबर एक फाइनल में भी लेके गया आपको, एक सेमीफाइनल में भी लेके गया वर्ल्ड कप के, बट आइडली आई वुडेंट वांट बाबर आजम टू बी सैक्ड राइट नाउ, क्योंकि एक साल बाद है अगली ओडीआई, ठीक है, और फिर से फॉर्मेट मिक्सिंग हो जाएगी, और जो आपके T20 परफॉर्मर्स हैं वही आपकी ओडीआई टीम्स में आ जाएंगे. टॉकिंग अबाउट द ओडीआई schedule and the FTP that PCB has, I've got a very interesting stat. We have got 0 ODIs in the next 12 months, and then from November 24 to March 26, we have got around 40 plus ODIs. ठीक है? Here comes the interesting part. March 26 से लेके अगले वर्ल्ड कप तक, दैट इज इन 2027, ठीक है, दैट इज मतलब आप कह लो एक साल का पीरियड है. वी हैव अगेन गॉट 0 ODIs राइट नाउ. मतलब कैन यू इमेजिन, मतलब जब आप इस तरह का आपने स्केड्यूल रखा हुआ है, फिर फॉर्मेट मिक्सिंग ही होगी, फिर आपको यही लगेगा कि हारिस लोग आपको वर्ल्ड कप जिता देगा, लेकिन वो खेल के T20 जा रहा होगा, तो अब उसकी भी गलती नहीं है क्योंकि आपने उसको मतलब this is heights of, you could say, incompetence, if that is the right word. ये मतलब प्लानिंग में मसला आ रहा है ना, तो अगेन बात फिर आपकी वही स्ट्रक्चर और पीसीबी पे सारी आंखें आ रही हैं कि भाई आप जब सही प्लेयर्स को प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं दे रहे, तो हाउ डू यू एक्सपेक्ट टू परफॉर्म. एंड एज फार एज द कैप्टनसी डिबेट गोज, I am personally not sure if that is good for the Pakistan team. बट बाबर को देखते हुए कि बाबर के लिए इस वक्त बेस्ट डिसीजन है टू गेट रिलीव फ्रॉम कैप्टनसी एंड गेट बैक इनटू द मोजो दैट ही हैड बिफोर कैप्टन. ठीक है, he still is a terrific performer, don't get me wrong, but उसकी वो जो एक बैटिंग की पीक है ना, I think विराट कोहली के साथ भी अगर आप रिलेट करें, he has also not been able to get as many trophies as he would have liked, right? Even though he was a terrific
यार लेकिन
captain with
विराट
a good
कोहली की
record.
मैच विनिंग परफॉर्मेंसेस हैं, बाबर आजम की शायद पिछले
हाँ है,
जब से इसका
देखें,
करियर शुरू हुआ
दैट
है
इज
लाइक
वेयर वी
3
गो
मे बी.
रॉन्ग. बाबर आजम इस बाबर आजम को विराट कोहली से कंपेयर करना ही गलत हो जाता है ना. ठीक है, विराट कोहली इज एट एन अनदर लेवल
आई
एंड
एग्री.
बाबर आजम की अभी एज आ रही है. ठीक है, बाबर आजम को शायद हम आज से 5 साल बाद कंपेयर कर सकें, बट राइट नाउ आई थिंक वो उसकी तरह हो जाता है कि बाबर आजम को आप शुभमन गिल से नहीं कंपेयर कर सकते, बिकॉज द टाइमलाइंस आर डिफरेंट. दैट इज व्हाई आई थिंक बाबर आजम शुडंट बी टॉक्ड अबाउट. नासिर हुसैन ने तो कह दिया कि इट इज द फैब फाइव एंड बाबर आजम शुड बी इन दैट, बट बाबर आजम इज not part of the Fab Four. Fab Four क्यों बनी थी? क्योंकि they were four great batsmen, ठीक है, and they were four great batsmen from the same age bracket, and they were the four people who debuted at the same time. स्टार स्पोर्ट्स ने सेवन वंडरफुल बैट्समैन या इस तरह कुछ निकाला था, उसमें दे इंक्लूडेड वार्नर एंड रोहित शर्मा एंड देन बाबर आजम एज वेल. दैट वाज फाइन. But Fab Four is Fab Four. You cannot include Babar Azam in that simply because of the fact कि उसकी timeline ही different है. That does not mean that Babar Azam is not as good as them or maybe better than them, but we shouldn't be including him in that. Coming back to the captaincy debate, I think split captaincy थोड़ी सी politics को ले आएगी, but split captaincy को test किया जा सकता है. I personally want के T20s में we can either keep Babar or give Shaheen a go because बहुत ज़्यादा उसकी I think PR हो रही है, और ODIs में I
लाहौर
think
का
रिजवान,
जिंदा.
Lahore कैलेंडर प्लेयर, और ODIs में आई वुड से रिजवान. आई थिंक रिजवान इज द मोस्ट कंप्लीट लीडर, उसने सुल्तान में शो भी किया है. एंड टेस्ट में सरफराज की बहुत पीआर आ रही है. आई डोंट वांट सरफराज कमिंग बैक, आई होप ही डजंट कम बैक. आई वांट रिजवान टू बी द कीपर फॉर ऑस्ट्रेलिया, and I want Shan Masood because I am a great admirer of Shan Masood and feel like उसने बहुत ज़्यादा अंडर अचीव किया है. Although उसकी भी पीआर बहुत है, but I feel like मतलब he
उसकी
is
असल में इंग्लिश अच्छी काफी.
sorry.
उसकी इंग्लिश अच्छी है शाह मसूद की.
यार देखें, इंग्लिश अच्छी वो ठीक है, मतलब मैं थोड़ा सा इम्प्रेशनेबल हूँ या नहीं हूँ वो जो अलग बात है, शायद हूँ मैं, ठीक है, आई मे हैव अ बायस, बट मतलब आई हैव बीन लॉन्गिंग टू सी समवन विद अ गुड इंटेलेक्ट and someone who can, who has a good personality and can play as well, can play well as well. So I see that in Shan Masood, something that I see in Ravi Ashwin as well. Some people who are, good cricketing brains. That is who I want to. That is the people. That are the type of people that I want to succeed. So Shan Masood, maybe I think I'm maybe a little biased, but I want Shan Masood in tests. But let's hope uh,
Hmm.
this pans out well. Uh, लेट्स होप कि पाकिस्तान के लिए जो भी डिसीजन हो, ठीक है, इट डज पैन आउट वेल. डू यू हैव एनी टेक ऑन द कैप्टनसी कि क्या होनी चाहिए? बिकॉज ओडीआई एक साल बाद हैं, T20 है इस वक्त तो फिलहाल, और टेस्ट हैं ऑस्ट्रेलिया के. डू यू वांट टू चेंज
यार
द कैप्टन?
देखो, here's my final take. I think I don't know what's going to happen for the captaincy going forward, but what I do want from Babar Azam is to do a press conference. I want him to come out and I want him to accept that he made mistakes, that his planning wasn't at par, and we suffered the World Cup partly because of the decision making that he made. Because
Partly.
we talked about the inconsistency in the whole the Pakistan team, the PCB, the chairmans. But the one thing constant amongst all of those things is Babar Azam as captain and the team selection. We heard the chairman talk about how he gave a free hand to Inzamam and Babar Azam. So this was Babar Azam's team. This is the team that Babar Azam wanted for the past 6 months, 1 year, whatever. So he needs to come out and take some responsibility that, this is my team.
Yeah.
I picked this. I made mistakes. This wasn't the best team that I thought. And going forward, we'll need to see what needs to happen. That's what I want at least from Babar.
I just have one last thing to say. Who else would you have had in this team if this is not the best team? मतलब जब squad आया था, I had just had one contention and that was pretty much it. And मतलब उससे ये लग रहा था, everybody was talking about that this is the best squad that Pakistan team essentially has, the Pakistan as a country essentially has. I personally wanted Fahim Ashraf to be there instead of Zaman Khan, primarily as a bowler. I don't want him to bat even. I'll bat him below Shaheen. I don't care. But Fahim Ashraf provides you with that new ball stability, and perhaps he could have been a like for like backup that you needed with Naseem Shah going out, right? He provides that, he basically economizes things with the new ball. With Zaman Khan, Hussein Jr., and Haris Rauf, you're getting three similar sorts of bowlers who are good at that, maybe good at middle overs, but are not proficient at bowling with the new ball. And that is where we had a sort of, we had a void, and that cost us the World Cup. So, would you make any changes to the World Cup squad? What's your
Yeah,
ideal
देखो,
World Cup squad?
I would say that you need to start planning for the World Cup like at least a year, year and a half in advance. So I agree.
3 days.
As of right now, this is the best team, but I would have loved to see a combination where Imad Wasim fits in, where Abrar Ahmed is tried out, where you can try different sort of combinations. And I think that is all that falls under poor planning, poor selection. So I would have loved to see like a combination where Nawaz is playing, Imad is playing, Shadab is playing, and let's say if you're playing at Chennai, you can play three spinners plus Iftihar. So I mean, because India they've played with Jadeja, Akshar Patel, Ashwin. So why can't we try a similar combination? We have Imad in the team.
Yeah,
Like he's a good player
I think
who can handle pressure.
Afghanistan went for four spinners as well against us. Okay. So
Hmm.
that is something. Imad, I'm a big Imad fan. I have defended him over the past, but I think उसकी जो फिटनेस है, आई डू वांट हिम फॉर द T20 वर्ल्ड कप बाय द वे, 2024 वाला जो है. बट
Hmm.
आई थिंक उसकी जो फिटनेस एंड इंटेंशन, अभी उसने टीवी पे आके कह दिया है कि व्हेन वसीम अकरम बेसिकली कॉल्ड आउट द प्लेयर्स कि आपको क्यों, मतलब यू शुड बी प्लेइंग द डोमेस्टिक वनडे टूर्नामेंट इफ यू वांट टू बी सिलेक्टेड फॉर द ओडीआईस. ही सेड दैट ही इज मोर इंक्लाइन टुवर्ड्स द T10. तो वहां से आई थिंक चीज आ जाती है कि मतलब आई थिंक वी आर बैक टू स्क्वायर वन. ठीक है, अगर आप लंबी क्रिकेट नहीं खेलेंगे तो आप अच्छे नहीं होंगे. मतलब अगर आप लीग्स खेलते रहेंगे, सौरव गंगुली पॉइंटेड आउट, इट्स नॉट मी, ये लंबी क्रिकेट खेलेंगे तो होगा. जमान खान इज सो अंडरकुड, you should have taken him to the World Cup. What if a fast bowler got injured? He has literally played six list A matches and one ODI match. How do you expect someone like that to perform in a pressure situation? If it kicks off, it kicks off. If it doesn't, what are you doing to the mental health of that particular player, right? So I think let's hope for the best for the Pakistan team in the coming future. Let's hope that Pakistan manages to get out of this pit that they have fallen in. The team, most important of all the teams, I hope stays united, and whatever happens, happens for the best, and we get a trophy sooner or later. Thank you so much, Bashar Bhai, for taking out the time to come on the show, and thank you so much for joining me. I love your show. I hope and wish you more success in the future. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you, and Allah Hafiz.
So yeah, thank you for having me.